September 22nd at Hunting Hawk Golf Club. To secure your foursome, go to WRVA.com.
It's 8:33 here on Richmond's Morning News Radio WRVA. So 39 years ago, I lived in Bakersfield, California. I'd never flown on a plane, never really been anywhere. I don't think I'd ever left the state. I think I went once to Lake Tahoe as a kid, but that's it. That was my entire world, was just right there. And for the first time ever, I got in a plane, flew across the country, came to Washington, D.C., and I went to the Young Americans Foundation, Young Americans for Freedom National Conference. And last night, I got to relive my childhood, but I got to share it with my son, Rigney, who's standing here with me, Riggs.
Hi, everyone.
And we went to the kickoff of the Young Americans Foundation rally to kick off their national convention in Mount Vernon. And we saw some amazing speakers, but we're incredibly grateful to Governor George Allen and his beautiful, regal wife. I say that all the time because she's about as regal as a person. She's like a princess. Susan, who were kind enough to include us in the festivities. We saw our former Attorney General, and I want to be our next governor, Jason Miyares, there. Governor Scott Walker. Rigney, you got a chance to spend some time with him. Boris Johnson, Andrew Clavin, Isabel Brown was there, and then Ben Shapiro brought the one and only. He came out there, and it was an amazing night. And the fact that we got to stand in George Washington's back porch and watch fireworks afterwards, lifelong memory.
It was pretty cool.
It was really amazing. So I'm humbled because George Allen has become such a dear friend. He's joining us right now on News Radio WRVA. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. You all got in really late, so you're real troopers. And Susan and I obviously had a great time seeing you all. And gosh, there were about 1,000 students in the National Conservative Students Conference that the Young Americans Foundation put on. And it actually was our biggest, as you know, I'm Reagan Ranch presidential scholar and also chair of the Reagan Ranch Board of Governors. And that all works with the Young Americans Foundation. And this was our biggest conference ever in history. I don't know how big it was when you 39 years ago, Rich.
Not nearly as big.
Yeah, but it was just so perfect, and it was an honor to speak to all the young people there. And I was just saying all of them as the next generation of leaders who are going to be carrying the torch of liberty, and I'm trying to get them to be cheerfully informing and educating other young people about first of all, about the history of our Declaration of Independence from the British monarchy and the principles embodied in the Declaration of Independence, that all people are created equal. That we're a meritocracy, not a structured, limited society. And as Martin Luther King Jr. said, it's a promissory note to people in generations following, and our natural rights that we have from our creator, not from a government or a monarch or any authority, and our desire for self-governance by the people, the government gets its just powers from the consent of the owners of the government, the people, and then the lessons from our Declaration of Independence, which Mr. Jefferson wrote as a bill of particulars as well, of all the abuses of the British monarchy. But you had to fight for it. You had to fight for over 5 years before, thanks to the help of the French army and especially the French fleet, trapped Cornwallis at Yorktown. And I know you and Riggs have visited Yorktown, but that was over 5 years later to get Cornwallis to surrender, trapped there at Yorktown. And so those lessons are, peace is secured through strength, and also that the United States from the beginning till present is stronger and more effective in achieving our goals with allies than without. And so there's those principles, and then contrasting with the socialistic idiocy that you hear on the other side.
Exactly. Well, sir, so for me, I've discovered this since I've jumped into the arena in a very small way, that we have a voice, but somehow we forgot that we had a voice. I keep telling people, just speak up in life, and speak up at the ballot box, and we get the government we deserve. So if you speak up, so I saw that last night. I thought it was interesting. Katie Pavlich, Greg Gutfeld, Jason Miyares. I'm not going to put Rich Herrera up in that list, but we all were yaffers. And then I went off and did my whole life. And then I said, wait a minute, I'm going to come back. It's this, if we can install this in high school and college kids, and that love of patriotism and understanding what this country is about and our founding and respecting that, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, and the reason the Young America's Foundation is focused on young people is that, as Ronald Reagan said, that freedom's never more than one generation away from extinction, and it's very important that you fight for and protect and hand on the concepts of freedom to next generations. And unfortunately, our students, young people, are not learning about the history of our country, the foundations of our system. And Jason and I were talking about years ago, and they still won't do it in Virginia, is that students graduating from high school in Virginia, and some states already require this, like Tennessee and Texas and others, that students graduating from high school at least need to pass the same test that new citizens have to pass to become citizens. That ought to be a minimum. And understanding our Constitution, understanding how the foundation of our country, the Declaration of Independence, is just the spirit of our country, and then the genius of our Constitution with the checks and balances and how the government is there to protect our God-given natural rights, everything from freedom of religion, freedom of expression, the natural right of self-defense, which is embodied in the Second Amendment, the concept of private property, which is the essence of the free market, free enterprise system, the due process and equal protection. All of that is protected under the rule of law. And if people just have those basics, they'll come generally to the right conclusion, rather than ceding your individual responsibility or your individual choices to a government and lords telling you and restricting what you can do and what you can purchase and so forth. I gave them an example. I said, you got this other side. They now want to cancel. Some of them want to cancel Thanksgiving because it's painful, or they're supporting Hamas terrorists while punishing companies that do business with our great ally Israel. Or they get suckered to this big government socialism that if you had it with the government making all the choices and decisions, it'd be like your choice that you have in who provides electricity to you. You have no choice. It's a monopoly. They're talking about government grocery stores, government-run medical care. I said eventually you'd have government EV charging stations all over because you could not have internal combustion engines or even a hybrid powered vehicle. So we trust free people. And I think most people, if you ask them, would you like to choose out of a variety of things from our innovative free market, free enterprise system? They'll say, yeah, I'd like to choose things rather than have the government make decisions for you. And it's something that needs to be couched and presented in a very positive, smiling way, in that we're helping people make choices in their own lives, but also help them achieve the American dream rather than leading a restricted, limited life while elitist lords tell us how to live our lives and restrict our options.
Governor Allen, sir, I just wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for inviting us last night. It was really incredible, and I'm actually so fired up. I met a couple of guys that run the Arizona chapter, so I think I'm gonna start palling around with them a little bit. But
good.
I gotta say, sir, one of the reasons that, in addition to everything that you were just saying, I take it one step further. In a lot of these college classrooms, we're actively taught that all of the great things that you just listed out. It's not only that professors are teaching that that's not true. They're actively teaching that those things are bad. And that's what makes organizations like YAF so important. Is it is quite literally the one place on campus where you'll hear, hey, the United States is actually pretty awesome, and we're incredibly fortunate to live here. Everywhere else on campus, it's free market bad. The what did Mondani say? The warmth of collectivism. Yeah. that's parroted pretty much everywhere on campus, except for wherever Yaffers are. So it's a great organization.
Yeah, I know that that's great to hear from your perspective, Riggs, because it's not unique to the University of Arizona. It's so many of these government colleges, the professors and so forth teach all of the bad things supposedly about the United States. Well, compared to any other country, we're the greatest, freedom-loving republic that the world has ever known. Why do people want to come here? As opposed to, they're not leaving here as they're leaving other countries. People are trying to get in legally and illegally into this country because it's a land of opportunity, of individual rights. And so the problem is in so many of these government colleges is people who think the way you do or appreciate freedom. And that point of view, they somehow have to cower because of the predominance is the folks with this far leftist socialistic point of view, and don't appreciate the history of our country and the ability of people to chart their own course, rather than having, again, government elites or whatever you want to call others controlling people's lives. And it's the Young Americans for Freedom chapters bolster folks and give them evidence, give people, arguments, reason. So when they're talking to their fellow students in their own ages, they're saying, no, that's not really the way they're telling us. No, socialism or communism has never worked in history. Or if you want to look at it and practice, would you want to go to the old Soviet Union? You want to go to Cuba? You want to go to the theocracies in Iran? No, you wouldn't want to live like that. And these students with these protests supporting Hamas and against Israel, you're thinking, I'm not going to get into every aspect of it, but would you really want to live in a governance of a theocracy that Iran or Hamas or Hezbollah impose on people there? Heck, no. Some of the folks who protest or demonstrate in favor of Hamas, they'd be killed because they're so intolerant. There's no freedom of religion. And that's, in my view, the first freedom, where rights are not enhanced nor diminished on account of someone's religious beliefs. And so it's just a shame that courses in high school and in college, to the extent they have any history courses, don't really teach the truth or just the basics. And so that's why the Young Americans Foundation's there is to give some hope and evidence and reason and logic to those who care to learn it. And that's our job. And it was just great. It's great to hear your comments, Riggs, because you're on the front lines and you're the next generation. You're part of that next generation of leaders carrying that torch of liberty. And you're energetic, you're articulate, and I think you'll be able to persuade some of your classmates. Show them the light. Show them the light.
Absolutely. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for inviting us. I want to thank Jessica Jensen from Young Americans Foundation, Scott Walker, of course, your lovely wife, Susan, and all the speakers, all the kids that let us go out there. It was an amazing night. He's in. I talked to Scott Walker. I said, I know you have Sage Steele and some other real high-profile speakers, but if there's ever a community college or a high school that you can't find somebody and you need someone to pinch in, I'm in. I'm in.
All right. Well, that's as good as a fireworks display. That's great, Rich. Well, you're very influential, and the folks that listen to WRVA and your show every morning are, thousands and thousands of people. And so that's great. That is just fantastic because, it may be that there's, a high school in your listening area that would like to hear a different point of view. It's not a different point of view. It's actually the truth. And it's based on our Declaration of Independence. And I look at this 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence as an occasion to have people focus in
Well, thank
What's
you.
in that Declaration of Independence? Why was it so revolutionary? And what were the reactions? And if you study history, know history, you'll be better able to make wise decisions as for present and future challenges. And I think that folks with the Young Americans Foundation, they're going to be choosing, like patriots done throughout history, as I close my remarks, is they'll choose to stand strong for freedom and opportunity for all. And that's what we believe in. And that's the promise of America.
Sir, thank you so much. I'll catch up with you next week.
All right, Rich, take care. Have a great weekend.
All right, take care. Governor George Allen joining us here on News Radio WRVA. Real quick, let me remind everybody, today's program is brought to you in part by our friends at Loan Pronto. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You've got a low interest loan, 2, 3, 4%.